Hi there, hi. Today Rachel and I are just going to talk a little bit about the Camino trips. Why would you go walk the Camino, and give you a little bit more information. I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of introduction to the Camino. So why would you walk one of the Caminos? Firstly, it's a great chance to actually explore Northern Europe, Italy, France, Spain. You get to see so much of the countryside, you get to meet some amazing people. People tend to walk the Camino for various different reasons, spiritual, a good walk, whatever, but the camaraderie is there and it's absolutely fantastic. You'll get to sample local food and wine, drinks, which we'll talk about later on, and it's just such a great experience. The trips that we do offer are self-guided trips. So what this really means is that you can really go at your own pace. You can go at your own pace. You're not part of a group, so you can leave whatever time of the day you want. You don't have to be at your accommodation for a specific time. You do have to use your own judgment though when you are walking on the trip. We're here to help you at any point during the trip, but use your own judgment. It is self-guided, so you do have to be aware of your surroundings. It's a great sense of achievement at the end of the trip, especially when you do walk into Santiago. For a lot of the trips, you get your pilgrim's passport, so you get your certificate. So that means you get a little certificate just showing that you've walked at least 100 kilometres, and it's just a great sense of achievement at the end of the day. As I mentioned before, you meet lots of interesting people. The Camino trips, pilgrimage trips, attract all walks of life, people from lots of different countries throughout the world, and it's a great chance to meet other people, learn new skills, learn new languages. The routes themselves are incredibly well waymarked. You'll get either an arrow or a scallop shell right away along the route, and again, for a lot of the routes, you'll find quite a few people walking them, so you'll be able to follow other people if you don't know where you're going. But trust me, I've walked the Camino. The waymarking is absolutely fantastic, and you won't have any problems whatsoever. As you can see from the slide, we've got a number of different Camino routes. Ranging from France, going all the way through France, Portugal, kind of ranging from Lisbon all the way up to Santiago. Most of the routes themselves, you will find your way actually walking into Santiago, which is where Tomb St James is actually located, and they just offer a great, again, absolutely fantastic trip. The main route, our main seller, is the Camino Frances. So that one starts from the French border at Saint-Jean, and you walk into Santiago. We've also got the Camino Inglés, which is the route that I walked a couple of years ago, which you start from the coast town of Ferrol all the way down to Santiago. Camino Primitivo is probably the original Camino, and this is one of the slightly more tougher ones. And definitely, if you want to get away from to get away from crowds, the Camino Primitivo is a good option. This is really one of the first Caminos that you'll find. The Camino del Norte starts off in the Basque country. So you start from San Sebastian and you walk through the Basque country all the way into Galicia. It's a beautiful walk that combines a lot of coastal and inland routes, and it's a great chance to eat the local Basque cuisine. Oh, excuse me. The French Camino that we do offer is a Camino Le Puy, which is a beautiful walk through rural France, and offers, again, a very much getting away from all experience. We've got a couple of other ones that we offer in Spain, which is the Via de la Plata. The full route itself starts from Seville, but we offer the route from Uranés, and you walk all the way into Santiago. And the final Spanish route that we do is the Camino Finisterre, and this is kind of called the route to the end of the world. This actually starts differently from all of the other Camino trips, where you walk from Santiago out to the coast at Finisterre. And traditionally, what people would do was take their boots and throw them into the sea, just as a kind of marker of respect for the route. One last Camino that we do have is the Camino Portuguese, and we're now offering for this year 2 different options for this particular route. We've got the inland route, which goes all the way from Lisbon to Santiago, and we've got the coastal route, so from Porto, so walk from Lisbon to Porto, and then from Porto all to Santiago, you can walk along the coast, which is a beautiful experience, and one you will most certainly enjoy. It's proven to be very popular already. So the information that we send you out prior to your trip starting, We send you a guidebook. Depending on the trip that you're going will be dependent on the guidebook that you'll get. This guidebook gives you lots of information on the route, and it gives you little tidbits on the towns that you're going to be walking through as well. Fantastic little piece of information. We also have specific trip information booklets that are aligned to whichever trip that you're going. So if, say, for example, it was the Camino Inglés, it would tell you a little bit about the region that you're walking in and just give you some little more pieces of information. Most importantly is where you're staying. So we'll send your accommodation list prior to the trip starting, as well as your invoice and luggage labels, because you need them for your luggage transfer. On arrival, you do receive a lovely little welcome pack from our local partners, who are in fact actually based along the Camino Francés route. They have offices in Sarria and Santiago for our Spanish Caminos. So you receive your accommodation details. You'll receive separate luggage tabs as well, which have the local partner's reference number on, which also attach to your luggage. You'll receive some basic day-to-day route notes. You don't really need them, to be perfectly honest. The route is so well waymarked that you don't really need them, but they're there just in case. And most importantly, you'll receive your Communal Passport, which you get stamped on a daily basis. And we'll just go into a little bit more detail about the passport in a bit later on. I'm going to hand you over to my colleague Rachel, who will give you a little bit more information on the accommodation.
Yes, so as Nicola said, we organise all of your accommodation for you along the route. So these can vary in your bigger cities. If you're starting in Burgos or Leon or San Sebastian, for example, you're probably going to be in a 3-star hotel, a bigger hotel. Obviously, along the Camino, you're going to be walking through lots of small villages and towns along the way. So in these more rural areas, you maybe be in a smaller traditional hotel. So you're really getting a good experience in all different types of accommodations. All very welcoming though, of course, and quite traditional hospitality too. So perfect for when you've been walking all day, you just want to get home and kick your shoes off. They're ideal for that. So as Nicola said as well, you're going to get a full accommodation list for where you're staying. So you'll have all the details there. You'll have your route notes, which you'll follow to get along the route, but the more detailed information and where exactly to find your hotel will all be in your accommodation list. So they're all very easy to find. So when you get there, after your long day, all you need to do really is say your name and that you're with Max Adventure, and they'll know exactly who you are. So don't worry about having to have any sort of confirmation or anything. It's all confirmed, and it's very easy to do. And of course, once you get there, you'll pick up your luggage and you'll have everything there for you waiting. Also, as Nicola said, a really great thing about the Camino is the food you'll get along the way, particularly in Spain, as we've experienced anyway. So there's lots of amazing food along the way, so we do recommend that you go out and experience it and try as many different things as you can. One particular point about the Camino is you've got the Menu del Dia, or the Pilgrim's menu. This is usually around 10 to 15 euros, and you can find it in many different places along the route. It usually says in the window where you can find it, and you can get 2 courses with a glass of wine usually. So it's a very good deal, and it's for pilgrims, so you might as well try it while you're walking the Camino. But there are lots of other places you can try as well. When I was walking the Camino, I made sure that I tried lots of different restaurants and different types of food, so we do recommend it. We do have the option to go half board as well, if that's something you want us to organise in advance for you too. So yeah, definitely recommend that. Your breakfast is included as a standard though, so even if you're not going half board, your breakfast is included in each accommodation, and they're usually a sort of buffet style breakfast, so you can have kind of continental foods for your breakfast, croissants, breads, jams, things like that. There's plenty of options, and I must say actually, if you do have any dietary requirements, let us know in advance. It means that we can let the accommodations know and we can cater for that for you. So yeah, lots of options for food along the way. You also have your baggage transfers included when we're booking the Camino for you, so it's fantastic. It means that you can just leave your bags in the morning when you set off, as long as they're there for around, I think it's before 8:30 to 9 o'clock, you'll leave them there, and by the time you get to your next accommodation, it should be there for you. So you've got everything there, and you obviously don't need to carry everything with you. So these are included as standard on all of our tours, so you don't need to think about adding them on, they're already there for you. So we do recommend that you don't pack anything too fragile or breakable within your bags, just in case there's anything really important to you that you want to bring. I'd maybe carry it with you on the day so you know you've got it there and you don't need to worry about it. And yeah, if you bring maybe like a large rucksack or a closed case, basically, so that you know that nothing can escape. I brought a little suitcase with me and it was absolutely fine. We do have the option to store baggage as well if you want to, maybe if you're walking quite a long time and you want to transfer luggage from the beginning of your trip right to the end, so you won't get it in the middle. We can arrange that too if you just let us know in advance, of course, and that's an option that we've got as well. Other types of transfers that we can include are travel transfers. So most places along the Camino you can find with public transport, depending what route you do. And we can also organise private transfers. So if you're wanting to just go straight from A to B, we can organise that for you, and just let us know in advance. Obviously, we can book that for you. So, got very popular questions coming up for preparation for your Camino, how to get prepared before you go. So we've got a little packing list here of just things we recommend that you bring with you personally. So we've got ideal size of bag, not too big. Obviously you're walking for a long time each day. Obviously bring the things that you really need with you during the day, but you don't want to bring too many things because you're going to have to carry that during the day. And yeah, as I say, the usual kind of walking trip items, good boots. I definitely recommend good walking boots. Ones that you've worn in or wore quite a lot. I made that mistake and wore new shoes without wearing them in, so I can personally tell you just definitely wear shoes that you find comfortable and learn from my mistakes. Another thing that I also kind of forgot about is wearing minimal or casual evening clothes, so that when you're relaxing at night, you've got something nice to wear if you're going out for dinner or something. And similarly, you'll see on the list we've got flip-flops too. These are great. You've been on a long day walking, you can just take off your walking shoes and put on some nice casual shoes or flip-flops so you can let your feet relax a little bit. More kind of practical things, we've got obviously layers. The weather can be quite changeable, I guess. You never know what the weather is going to be like. Especially if you're walking, you can warm up and then you can cool down. So definitely bring lots of layers with you, so you're prepared for all eventualities. And also make sure that you've got a first aid kit with you, or a blister kit as well, for any blisters or anything you might get on your feet when you're walking. You are walking for quite a long time, so definitely be prepared for that. If you do run out or you forget, there are shops and pharmacies in the bigger towns where you can pick up these sorts of things, so don't panic if you do forget those. We've got walking poles here. I'd say if you're walking a section that has maybe got a few more hills in it, or you're just more comfortable walking with walking poles, definitely bring them. Can help when you're, as I say, going up and down hills just for balance and things like that. Waterproofs, similarly to layers. You never know what the weather's going to be like, so definitely bring waterproofs. Keep them in your backpack, so if it's halfway during the day, you can easily change into them. And on the opposite end of the scale, bring sunscreen, because it can be very sunny in Spain, and if you're like us and Scottish and pale, then you definitely need sunscreen for when you're out all day. So just make sure you're prepared for that, as I say, all weather eventualities. And bring some water and snacks, finally. Just in case you don't come across anywhere. I mean, most places along the Camino have plenty of places to eat, but you never know when you're going to be hungry, and might not be when you planned. So always bring just a few snacks, pick up some things in the supermarket when you're in some of the bigger towns and villages. And finally, make sure that you get your travel insurance before you go. This is really important. You never know what could happen, so we do very strongly recommend that you purchase your travel insurance. We won't be able to provide this for you, so just make sure that you get this organised before you go.
Okay, so the next important thing is money. For all of the community trips in Europe that we offer, the currency is euros. In the larger cities and towns, you will find cash machines, ATMs. So if you haven't taken any local currency with you, you'll be able to get it absolutely no problem. Do make sure that you are carrying some cash though when you're walking through smaller places. Little local shops and bakeries may not accept credit cards, so it's always good to keep some euros in your kind of back pocket just for buying smaller things, especially water, that sort of thing. You'll probably find some of the larger places will accept, well, you will find some of the larger places will accept credit cards, no problem. Some of the smaller places won't. So again, that's why it's really, really important to have a little kind of stash of cash with you. One of the questions we do get asked an awful lot is, how much do I need per day? That's quite a difficult question to answer sometimes, because it really does depend on what you would expect to be buying. I personally would recommend between 5 and 10 euros for lunch. You can get an absolutely fantastic lunch for 10 euros, especially if you're going into a local supermarket and buying breads, cheeses, cold meats. It's going to be really cost effective and quite cheap. For dinner, anything, again, depending on where you eat, anything between 10 and 20 euros, not including alcoholic beverages if you're having a glass of wine. Especially walking through northern Spain, you'll get a lot of chances for tapas or pinchos, depending on where you're going. You can sometimes get them free with having a couple of drinks, but they're normally pretty cheap, very tasty, and you will absolutely love them. Another kind of important question that we get asked is, how fit do we have to be for the trip? It's always good for any trip, whether we rate it easy to moderate, whatever the rating, it is always good to get some training in beforehand, especially when you are doing a distance walk that covers quite a number of kilometres each day. So a few months before you go, just go out to your local countryside, go out walking, go up a few hills if you've got hills near you. Just get used to doing distances, get used to doing some ascents and descents. It pays off and it means you'll enjoy the walk a lot more. Pace yourself to start off with, and get used to like ascents and descents. So if you're living in Scotland and you're going a trip, don't suddenly climb a Munro if you've never done anything like that before. Pace yourself and build your fitness up gradually, and again, that staves off any injuries as well. If you do have any medication, make sure that it's in your day pack. This is really important. A lot of people will sometimes forget and place it in their pack that's getting transferred from hotel to hotel, but it could be that you may need it during the day. And again, this is really pertinent even to the first aid kit that Rachel was mentioning. A lot of people forget to pack that in their day pack, and there's nothing worse than having a blister and not having a blister plaster to actually put on. If you are at all concerned about doing the walk beforehand, please talk to your doctor and get your doctor's advice. We want you to actually go out and enjoy the trip. We don't want you worrying about your health. We want you to go out and enjoy the trip and experience the local communities, the local food, the local wine, enjoy the beautiful surroundings that you're going to be in. So that's our most important thing for you. Now, again, one of the important questions we get asked a lot is, how do you get to the walk start point? We can obviously book private transfers for you, which is absolutely no problem at all. These can work out quite expensive. So there's a few links here for some of the major bus companies and train companies within Spain. ALSA are the main bus company within the whole of Spain, and you'll find that they'll cover a lot of the routes. So they're a really good first kind of go-to when you're looking at buses. Renfe is the national rail company, and again, they cover the whole of the country. Really easy to navigate website as well, and you'll find that you'll get 3 different types of trains within Renfe, but you'll probably find that you'll be able to get a train somewhere. The last one for longer distances is a great company called Monbus. I've used Monbus a couple of times, and again, they offer unusual routes that maybe ALSA don't operate, and they're a great little company. For some of the more kind of remote places, there are smaller companies that will operate public transport services, but just let us know, we'll be able to look into it for you and give you any information that you do need.
So it's not just walking along the Camino, you know, there is also the option to cycle it. And this is actually a really popular way to explore the Camino. So we offer it from Leon to Santiago only, so we can't do any other parts of the Camino. And this route is actually, it's quite tough. So if you're thinking of a nice, easy jaunt along the Camino on your bike, I wouldn't recommend this one. It's more for experienced cyclists. So definitely if you're used to off-road cycling, mountain biking, and you want a new experience, this itinerary is probably better for you. But we do want to make sure that you are an experienced cyclist, because it can be tough at times, and it can be quite difficult. We work with fantastic local partners for this trip. They are really fantastic, and if you have any issues when you're cycling, they have a van that can come and help you. Any mechanical difficulties they can fix. So it's a really great trip to do in that respect, because you're fully supported. Basically, you'll get your bike right at the start of your trip at your first accommodation, and it comes with, you've got a helmet, you've got a water bottle, lock, and a tube. So you've got everything that you'll need. And if you want to bring your own pedals, that's fine as well. Just let us know in advance, usually for that, and that's absolutely fine. So it's another option for you as well if you're still thinking about doing the Camino but don't necessarily want to walk it. Now, we also have, as we mentioned before, the Communal Passports. Obviously, this is a great souvenir that you get at the very start of your walk. And all you need to do really is take it with you every day. Make sure you take it with you. Don't forget it in your luggage. And you just stamp it as you go along. All you need is 3 stamps per day. And you can get these stamps from tourist information, from cafes, restaurants, bars, shops, anywhere, pretty much. You can walk in anywhere and you'll see the stamp, either just at the till or on the bar, just wherever you are. It's fairly obvious, so you can just go in and get your stamp. If you're walking a longer Camino, I would recommend making sure that you write the date on there, otherwise you may forget by the time you get to the end which day you got each exact stamp. So I'd recommend that. And your Camino passport you actually get once you arrive at the very start of your walk. So even if you're starting in Sarria or San John, wherever you begin, in your welcome pack is where you'll get your Camino passport. So you don't need to worry about picking it up anywhere. You'll have it for you when you arrive. Okay, so we just have a few kind of general, frequently asked questions. So the first one is a very popular question, what kind of amenities you find along the routes, how often they're there. I walked the final stage from Sarria to Santiago, and there were amenities aplenty. They were everywhere, shops, cafes, even just little kiosks and things like that. So I wouldn't worry about there not being enough amenities along the way. There are plenty of places to stop for a drink or food, for example. And I found that, yeah, there are lots of little stalls as well. So sometimes you'd be walking through maybe a little forest area where you wouldn't expect anything, and you'd come across someone local with a stall selling food. So I wouldn't worry about that. There are plenty of options.
Your day-to-day route notes will normally give you a bit of indication as well about the services and stops along the way. Yeah. So it's always good to read these the night before, just so you know, just so you're aware of where the stops are. Yeah, definitely. Just in case you are going through a quieter part, maybe earlier on in the Camino, and the more kind of rural areas, you might find there aren't as many. So yeah, definitely read your route notes ahead, so you've got a better idea. Next question we get asked quite a lot: is it safe for a solo female to walk? And the short answer to that is yes. Any of my solo female customers walking any trip, I always say you have to exercise an element of common sense. Don't do anything when you're abroad that you wouldn't do at home, but the route itself is perfectly safe. If for any reason that you did feel a bit unsafe, you will have emergency services contact numbers on all of the information that we send you out. You will also have a contact number for our local partners, but most importantly, you'll have a 24-hour number for ourselves as well. So we are always available at the end of the phone 24 hours a day.
So the steepest part of the climb, there were two immediate answers that we thought of here. So on day 2 of the full Camino, you're walking right over the Pyrenees. So obviously that struck us, that's going to be a pretty steep climb. Roughly we worked it out to be about 6.25% gradient. This was a rough estimate, so feel free to double check that. But it is quite steep. It's there are parts where you're going continuously uphill, but there are little breaks in between. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. But it is a tough day. You'll get it over and done with at the very start, though. Another sort of steep part would be from Ocebrero, or when you're walking into Ocebrero. Roughly, this is around day 32 if you're doing the full thing. Sometimes you can start in Ocebrero, which makes it a bit easier. But it is quite a steep climb. It's only around 9 kilometres that day, so you look at that on your itinerary and you think that's nothing. But when you look at it, in a kind of graph, it's quite steep. So yeah, I'd say they're the two steepest parts to prepare for, definitely.
Next really important question is, when is the Pilgrim's Mass in Santiago, and do you have to book? Firstly, you don't have to book. The Mass takes place twice a day, so at midday and at 7:30 in the evening, although the main Pilgrim's Mass is at midday. My recommendation here is get into the cathedral early, and people are queuing from sometimes before 11 o'clock to actually get into the cathedral, especially if you want to sit in the little enclosure where a lot of the pilgrims will sit. So if you do want to have a nice seat and actually be kind of in front of the priest doing the Mass, then yeah, get in quite early. But yeah, midday or 7:30 on a daily basis.
In terms of mobile phone coverage, I certainly did not find this a problem when I was walking. I don't know if you did.
No.
I think, if you're in a particularly rural part, or maybe when you're crossing the Pyrenees, you might lose it a little bit, but for the most part, the signal is absolutely fine. If you do lose it, it will only be for a couple of minutes, so not to worry.
Next one is, do I have to speak good Spanish? No, you don't have to speak good Spanish. We do recommend you learn a little bit of the language. So hello, goodbye, thank you. Ordering some basic food and drink, I find always helps. For the Camino Frances, they are so used to non-Spanish speaking tourists. Most of the places you're walking through will be able to speak pretty good English. It's not the same for some of the smaller Caminos. The Camino Inglés, not everyone spoke English where we went, and my Spanish isn't great, to be perfectly honest, but we get by absolutely fine. Google Translate is pretty good sometimes if you do get stuck.
Accessing water along the route. So, as I mentioned, depending on which Camino you're doing, you might have access to plenty of amenities along the way, so shops and cafes and places like that. I'd always recommend having plenty of water when you start off in the morning, just in case. So if you've got a big bottle or a hydration pack, make sure that's full. But there are certain points where you'll find little water fountains along the way. Obviously, a lot of these routes are very well established, so they're used to people walking for a long time, and so you'll find little water points as you go. But as I say, just make sure that you've got enough before you head out, just in case.
How easy is it to access lunch on the route? Again, this really depends on the Camino trip that you're actually walking. For the Camino Frances, you really won't have any problem at all. There are so many pilgrims walking this daily during the season that there are so many kind of pop-up places even along the route. For some of the smaller Caminos, that you may find that you have to maybe pack some lunch with you as a stop. Like most frequent stop or the easiest stop might not be till a little bit further along the route. But again, bear in mind, this is your route notice will give you all of your information. So have a read at your route notice and your day-to-day notice the night before. And if you do find that you do have to pick up a few things just before you head out, you'll find little supermarkets and things like that in the towns that you're going to be staying in. On the whole, though, for most of the Camino trips, you will find a stop somewhere along the route to have a delicious lunch.
You do not need to bring a sleeping bag with you, so one less thing to carry. As I mentioned, with all your accommodations, they're really nice, comfortable accommodations. You'll always have a bed, so you won't need a sleeping bag.
And last but not least is where or how do you acquire a SIM card for an unlocked phone? The good point of call would be probably the airport when you first arrive, or the city that you're travelling into. So any of the kind of bigger cities, there's going to be plenty of little phone shops dotted about, and you'll be able to get a pay-as-you-go SIM card just for the period that you're here. Always check though with your own provider just to make sure that they'll allow you to actually put another SIM card in your actual phone itself.
Okay, so I think you've got all the rest of the resources you need. So we're just going to do some more questions that you have all sent in. So I'll pass on to Nicole.
So what time do most people make it into Santiago on the last day? And that's been asked by Anne. It really depends on which Camino you're walking, and it depends how fast you walk. If we're talking about the Camino Frances and you're walking from Rua into Santiago, it's quite a long walk. It's about 20 kilometres, so it's quite a long day. Most people will set off pretty early if they do want to make the midday mass. But bearing in mind there is another mass at 7:30 if you miss it. If you don't happen to make it into the mass for the midday mass, go get your pilgrim's passport at that time because the queues won't be so long. And this is another good reason actually really to add an extra day in Santiago at the end of the trip, so you can actually have a bit of a day of leisure and go to the midday mass if you don't make it in time.
We've also got how early should we start the daily walks on that note. It depends really on how fast you walk. I know my friend I walked the Camino with walks so quickly. So we would still set off maybe around 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the morning, but we wanted to have lots of time once we got to the next village, and it depends if you want to stop for lunch as well. So yeah, I don't know, maybe.
I'll be honest, when I walked the Camino Inglés, we set off probably about 8:30 every morning after breakfast, and we always get into the towns and plenty of time to have some nice relaxing time. So again, it really just depends how comfortable you feel walking distance for that day.
Yeah, exactly. You've got...
Oh, another one from Anne. So you're going to be taking the shuttle transfer from Santiago to Sarria. I'm taking you're meaning the private transfer. If you are meaning the private transfer, then the time will take roughly about an hour and a half, depending on traffic. So it is a fairly quick journey.
In regards to eating an early dinner, this is from Laura. This was a concern of mine as well. I eat a really early dinner. And I did find that, because in Spain, obviously, they eat a little bit later. I would usually have to wait until maybe 7 o'clock for most places to be open. But depending on the Camino that you're on, a lot of people cater, obviously, to people who want to eat a little bit earlier. So you might be surprised, but I would always prepare for a later dinner just in case, because there's nothing worse than having to wait a few hours and you have no food to even snack on. So I found that I would pick up some snacks just for the end of the afternoon to avoid that. But yeah, you'll find that most places will be around 7 o'clock.
So we've got a couple of questions from Robert, and I'll just go over these. So toilet stops along the way. Rachel had covered this briefly, and again, it really is dependent on the Camino that you're walking. If it is the Camino Frances, especially the final few stages, you'll find lots of options for toilet stops along the way. Again, it's always good to have a look at your route notes the previous night, just to have a look at where the services would be. It comes under services in your route notes, so it will tell you where the towns are, and you'll be able to use kind of those stops there. And directions to get to your hotel. The directions for your hotel are normally on your accommodation list. So if you have received your accommodation list, they should give you some kind of basic directions on how to get to your accommodation each night. Most of the accommodations though aren't that far off the route, so you've never got miles to go, and they're normally pretty easy to find.
Laura's asked about waterproofs and what sort of things to bring. So when I was away, I had waterproof trousers with me. They're very lightweight, so you can easily fold them away, and they take no space in your bag, and of course they're very light. So I definitely recommend picking some of those up. I also had a waterproof jacket. Again, it was quite a heavy duty waterproof jacket, but I'm glad I brought it because it didn't rain. But it was something that I could easily tie around my waist, or again pack into my bag, and it didn't weigh a lot. So I'd say they're the two key items. I also had a water cover for my bag as well, so that once it rained, it meant it didn't soak straight through to my bag. So I'd maybe recommend one of those as well.
Bed bugs. Now, we do get asked this question probably at the start of every season, every year. Are there bed bugs, and are the hotels free of bed bugs? Yeah, I mean, on the whole, yes, of course. We wouldn't be sending anyone to an accommodation that had a bed bug problem. Unfortunately, it's tourism and the tourists that are actually staying in the accommodation that carry these bed bugs. So sometimes you will find that an accommodation will have the bugs, and it's been brought in by someone that's been staying there the previous night. The minute we are aware of the situation, and our local partners are aware of the situation, the accommodations know about it, and they do step into action to eradicate them. And if for any reason we had to move anyone, if there was a problem, then you would be moved. But as I said, on the whole, bed bugs are no problem whatsoever. Unfortunately, it's people staying in the accommodations that tend to bring them in, so it's not something we can ever say will never ever happen.
We've also been asked about safety or security issues along the Camino, for example, getting robbed. Obviously, this is something that we hope would never happen. For that reason, we recommend that you don't bring anything that's too valuable with you. Like we said, with the luggage transfers, anything too fragile, anything that you just don't want to lose. I would recommend, if there is anything important that you do want to bring with you, carry it with you during the day. I had a little bum bag, I don't know about you. It meant I could keep everything really close to me, and I knew exactly where it was, just in case. But we haven't really had any issues. It is such a popular walk, and there are so many people walking that I just don't find that there's been anything like that. And so I certainly wouldn't worry about it. But if you can do all you can to keep everything important close to you, then hopefully that should do the job. We've got a few questions here about timings and availability. For example, the best time of year to do the Camino?
Well, the most popular months are May, June and September. This tends to be when it's not too hot and the weather's pretty decent throughout the Communal Routes. It's the most popular time, so it means that you do have to book early if you want to go in these months. May already is starting to become quite tight for availability. So I would always recommend, if you do want to go in these months, certainly book well in advance. The other months though, depending on which Camino you want to walk, the other months, I mean July and August, I walked the Camino in Gleis in July, and it was a relatively quiet route. The weather was nice, it wasn't too hot. So July and August for me, depending on which route you're going, is still a good month. And bearing in mind you have October as well, a lot of people forget how nice a month October is in like Spain and France and Portugal, and it was October, Rachel walked the final stage, and it's some okay weather.
Yeah, it was lovely actually. I was at the very end of October, so into November, and the weather was beautiful. It did rain on one day, but that was, less than I expected. So it was great. So I definitely recommend October too. It was quiet, but there was still surprisingly a lot of people on the Camino, so still a good experience. In terms of, we've got short availability, how flexible can we be with the itineraries? We can tailor make itineraries to make them shorter, longer. On the Camino Frances, we can amend the itinerary so that you're walking shorter distances per day, or maybe longer distances per day, if you like. So, depending what you're looking for, let us know, and we can see if we can do it for you. So Mary's asked about the path surfaces. So I guess it depends which part of the Camino you're doing. When I walked from Sarria to Santiago, it was a mixture of forest trails. There were some pavements a lot next to the road at times, but not too many, to be honest. So I found it all very easy to walk on, actually. There were no particularly difficult parts underfoot at all.
What I was going to think, you have to remember with a lot of the Camino as well, because of the popularity, roads are built up around the routes themselves. So for most of the walks, you will find a small element of road walking. But again, my personal experience was primarily residential areas and lots and lots of forest paths, which we got all to ourselves. So we sang a lot, which was wonderful.
So we've got a few more questions here.
If I'm doing some biking and some walking, do I need 2 passports? Oh, that's a really good question, because there's different criteria for walking to what there is for biking. If you want to bike, you have to cycle the final 200 kilometres. But if you want to walk, it's the final 100 kilometres. And I will be honest, I'm not 100% sure of that answer. So it's something that we can take a note of your details and we can come back to you actually on this one. Yes, I'll keep that one and come back, yeah. I would imagine they would go with how you're doing it for the majority of the trip, but when you're getting your certificate, they will look at all your stamps in the passport. So yeah, have to look into that one. Good question.
We have a few more questions about the certificate actually. Do you only get a certificate if you finish in Santiago? Yes. You have to walk over 100 kilometres as well. So there are a couple of itineraries where you might not. So just be wary when you're choosing your itinerary that you're definitely walking over 100 kilometres so that you get your certificate at the end. So you'll need 3 passport stamps per day, and you get your passport back in Santiago, so don't worry. As I say, it's a good souvenir to have. So once you hand over your passport to get your certificate, and they'll give it back. So not to worry.
Another good thing as well, if you do forget how many stamps you do need, your day-to-day route notes in your welcome pack will give you that information as well.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think that's all the questions we have. If you have any others though, do let us know. The details are on the screen and we'd be more than happy to answer them for you. But I hope that's been informative. Any further resources you need, all on the screen. And as I say, we'd be more than happy to answer any other questions that you have. But thank you very much for tuning in.
Thanks for your time.
Buen Camino.